Hey, good morning. It's 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. Hope everybody's doing good. About 5:30. I was trying to figure out what to say today. That's Wednesday. I guess I got the post Labor Day uh, holiday thing going on here. Got a 6 a.m. playbook session with people overseas, so it's good to doing this 5 a.m. Mester Scrum because I'm awake and moving and everything like that. So that's good. And it's 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. Please like and subscribe to us. We're on, should be on the Google podcast very soon. Waiting for iTunes to come back and say whether we're in anything. We're on Spotify. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. What am I missing? I don't know. All of them. So the major 5 houses, so we're on there. And we're talking about Agile and Scrum. I'm Greg Mester, you're a Scrum Master and Agile coach, is sharing information. I got this giant eraser because today is the start of school days for my kids, and just thinking about this giant eraser, having a giant one in Agile and Scrum is kind of similar, where you make a lot of mistakes, but you can erase them by the next sprint. So I just thought this was interesting. I was sitting on the desk because my kids were trying to catch up on all their summer assignments that they didn't do before school starts. So it's been a little hectic around the house. Anyway, big eraser, make lots of mistakes, but we can erase them and they don't really hurt you. But we do it a lot, right? That's the idea behind Agile, is you make some mistakes, you figure out what you want, you make tweaks to it, you make little eraser marks, and you move on. And with that, I want to talk about two subjects today. One, I want to talk about backlog priority management. There are a few ceremonies in Scrum, and you have your sprint planning, right? You have your daily Scrum, you have your retrospective, and you have your review. A lot of other places will add a sprint refine or backlog refinement session. Okay, so there's like 5 typically. I think they were talking about making that one a 5th one, but I don't know if it ever came to be solid or not. And what I like to add is something different. I actually have a backlog priority meeting. It's only 30 minutes once a week. And the reason why I do that is that we're working so hard on refining stories, writing stories. But one I see, and the biggest one of the problems with teams and product owners and business analysts and the group of people that do that is the prioritization of what work comes next. And I don't want it to be a long meeting. I want it to be a short meeting. It could be less than 30 minutes. It just depends on how good and how well prioritized the work is. But even the people said they don't need it. I found more people who don't set the time aside, and I create a half-hour session once a week just to prioritize the work. And or it could be once, like if you have a 2-week sprint. If you have a 2-week sprint, I usually do it twice in the sprint. You can do it once. If you start your sprints on a Monday, you should do a priority session like on a Friday, and then the next Friday you close everything out. And what I use that prioritization session is for 2 things. 1, prioritize the work, and 2, see if there's any hot work that came in that may need to get addressed, or hot priorities that may need to be addressed halfway in the sprint and not wait until the end in the last day, but just to check with management, see if there's anything there. The reason why, because it does happen, right? We're reality based, and we're trying to be open and truthful and agile, and not like, oh no, it never happens. It does happen. But it also instills in the idea of the product owner to groom the backlog, right? By prioritizing the work and looking in the next sprint, and maybe prioritizing, it should be really fast. It's like, what work is this? Is this work in the sprint still the proper priority? Is there other things that need to come into it? Is there something that needs to change based on feedback you've been getting from the team? And what I would do in that priority session, I would include a couple of key people, definitely a product owner, Scrum Master. So as a Scrum Master, I would actually sit down with my product owner a lot of times and force them to prioritize what work is next. So then I would help them uh, develop the agenda for the next refinement session or the sprint planning session, depending when it was and how often we did it. And like I said, you just need one every 2 weeks or once a sprint. Usually halfway in the sprint, do a prioritization session just to make sure the stories are prioritized correctly. If you have a technical lead on your team, I usually include them into the aspect of it, and definitely a business analyst. If the business analyst is helping you write your stories, then the business analyst should be involved in that meeting also. And again, it's just to prioritize the order of the stories. And the reason why you want to do that is that all the systems look at the priority in the databases, whether it be VSDS, Jira, Rally, any one of those systems, Azure, whatever you have, that priority of the stories and features and epics does dictate what shows up on everybody's radar from a development perspective. There are algorithms in there that will look at that priority and arrange the tasks to come out priority based on their parent priority, right? So if you have a feature that's higher than something else and has stories, it tries to assemble that priority. So it's really important to understand that. And it's just important to have looked at it and just make sure we are working the right priority. Also, maybe the technical people and everybody find some things like, we're not going to, they might have, it's also going to be a check, right? What really is going to get done in the sprint and what may not. And then maybe they did some development task stuff like, yeah, maybe we should move this up a little bit in priority because it's a higher risk item. And if we don't try it earlier, we're not going to make it done in the sprint. So there might be a session where the people talk about that. And you can invite the team. I try not to invite the team just to keep them coding and doing what they want. But if you have a really good team, it's probably not a bad idea to invite the team if they don't, it's a quick priority session. Is there anything coming from the team? Like I said, if you have a technical lead on your team, they can bring up, hey, we need to move around some of these stories. No, we're okay. Or maybe the team might say, yeah, I would really like to move this story that was towards the bottom more toward the top and work on that before something else. So, but I really encourage everybody to have I would call it a story prioritization ceremony. And later in another episode, maybe tomorrow, we'll talk about feature prioritization and how that works. So anyway, once a sprint, have your own prioritization planning session, ceremony in a half hour, not very long. It should never be very long. Just talk about what stories, and all you're doing is shuffling stories around up and down the backlog list just to make sure they got the right priorities. And it's a really good function to remind the product owners that they need to mature and refine their backlog on the side. So that's what I have there. So please, again, like and subscribe to our 5am Mester Scrum. And the second topic that we have here is I went to one of the IC Agile courses on coaching, the ACC, a while back, a couple years back. And it was a really great session. In fact, I'm going to be teaching some IC Agile courses in the future, hopefully that ACC course, because I really took it. I really liked it. And I want to share that back with people. And as a result, I created my own, you want to call it a coaching working agreement. I know I keep saying I got to post it up there. So one day I'll put a post up there. When I build the website back up and the blogging site, I will make that one of the very first articles, a new article on my coaching working agreement. And in this working agreement, there's a couple things. There's usually like 6 things that are core to it that I share with the people that I'm going to coach. And again, coaching could be a coach, could be a scrum master, could be anybody, right? And these 6 working items are part of that. And one of the items that I talk about is being open. And the reason why I just want to bring that up here in Scrum and Agile, and it's about being open. And people look at it and they go through, we'll have to go to the list. I guess it's kind of hard to do it, but being open means you're not, one of the meanings, we can do a whole session on being open. One of the options, I'm just talk one, being open to being wrong, right? And being open to just shutting your mouth and just listening to other people, for them to give you advice as a coach. And maybe that's why I bring up the big eraser, right? You got to be open to making mistakes. And we will have different sessions talk about what this open means in this thing. But one of the things is that you as a coach have to be open for feedback from the people who are talking to you. Like one of the things I talk about is that if I want to do a coaching session or there's time for a coaching session and I go up to one of my coachees, are you ready for your coaching session? I have to be open for them to say no and not take it like, oh my God, what do you do? Don't want to do a coaching session? Now, if they say I don't want to be coached for the next couple of months, this is another story. But if at that point, maybe they got a hot thing going on, busy, just lots of stuff coming at them, and you have to be observant and say, what's going on that you're so busy, right? And you just don't want to claim, like I see coaches that will schedule things during lunch period. I'm like, why? It's their lunch, leave them alone. Or they'll try to like squeeze in. You only have a half hour in this day or 15 minutes. So I'm going to squeeze it into that little 15-minute window on your calendar, and we're going to have a coaching session. Look, sometimes you got to be open to saying the person you're going to coach is going to say, no, I'm not ready. And then you might ask them, when would you be ready? Right. But you have to be open for them to say no and having a meeting with you, right? So that's one aspect to open, and we'll do a couple discussions about various other aspects of being open. What does that really mean? But in this case, open means open for somebody else saying no to your schedule and asking for another time, or you have to come back, and not taking it personal, not taking it as a gig against somebody, but being open and, okay, fine, it's good. Is there any time you'd like us to meet? Maybe later at 3 or tomorrow morning or Wednesday later in the week would be fine. So you have to be open as a coach to take that. So with that, those are the two topics. It's 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. I hope you're enjoying the sessions. I'm going to try to put it up in the podcast and stuff like that. That might come out a little bit later. Trying to figure out how all this stuff works. And please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. We're on LinkedIn. And please share, because hit the little bell and we'll get out there. And you have a great day. It is the middle of the week after a holiday, so it's a short week. So we got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We got 3 more days, but we're halfway through. And you have an awesome day and happy scrumming. Enjoy. Bye.